Welcome to Leopold Mozart's Minuet in F. We're going to start with a demonstration of this piece, followed by practice strategies to help you. What a fun piece. It's very light and lively, and it has a little bounce to it with the staccato that we hear. So let's dive in and talk about ways that we can assist you in learning this piece. We are moving forward from just playing 5-finger positions in the right hand and left hand and extending the range of those 5 fingers just a little bit. So let's see how that fits into learning this piece. If we're starting at the very beginning here, I'm going to focus on the right hand first. So let's take a look at the keys. We're noticing that we're beginning the F here, and we're sitting in an F position if you would call the top finger as your F there. But notice that really my thumb is situated on A, especially as you look at measure 2, we have a first finger on A, treble C is a second finger, which leaves us an opportunity to reach the 5th finger up to F. So we're doing more than just 5 fingers, A, B, C, D, E. We're stretched up there to that F, so we can reach this small arpeggio. So we'll start 5, 2, 2, 2, play the arpeggio, and then 3rd finger right in the middle. Now we're going to take this thumb and slide up to the B flat, and we'll play the B flat arpeggio, B flat D F, heading into measure 5, and then sliding right back down to that A and C that we started. Okay, so that gives us the first 5.5 measures there. I'll point out on measure 3, as you're playing the right hand, we have this repeated note on D. So what I like to do is encourage my students to slide the right hand 3rd finger forward just a little bit as I'm repeating. That gives me a chance to prepare for the B flat coming up with the thumb. It would look like this in practice. Boom, there's the B flat. So I don't have to do a quick jerk over there. So if you're a little concerned about reaching the flat key, that could be a practice strategy there. And then finally, going from measure 5 to 6, we're going to move all together. So we had some small motions there between the first few measures of the piece, but going from measure 5 to measure 6, we notice that the hand position changes. So here's where we are, just like where we were at measure 1 and measure 5. But as I go forward into measure 6, you notice that I'm going to move the hand down to an F 5-finger pattern and my 3rd finger on A, and we'll end up eventually with the thumb on the F. So the last few measures there, measure 6 and walking straight down. Okay, so that gives us a moment to work through the 3 hand positions that we're working in this first half of the piece. So right hand, you might take a moment to review that and get comfortable. Left hand, we're going to shift over to you in the meantime and look at this first half in the left hand, noticing that we're starting in the F position here, F, A, and C. Now those of you that are already working through the cadence progression, I want to point out here that there's something you can look at. I'm going to just for the moment pretend I'm playing the whole F chord and then going to the 4 chord in F. Noticing I have that B flat and D that extends, and then we come right back. So that is the basis of the first 6 measures of the left hand. We're going to do that F and A here, and the right hand you actually bring in the C. So we don't play it in the left hand, we play it in the right. But when we get to measure 3, 2nd finger, you stay engaged right here where you were already placed on the B flat, and thumb you spread upwards, shifting to the D there, and then back home measure 5. So that's really it for the first 6 measures, is finding that position. When we get to the last 2 measures, we're going to open up the hand from just the 5-finger pattern to reaching for a larger group, that octave. So measure 7, the focal point is, can you reach from middle C down an octave? And then measure 8, there's the F octave. So C octave, lifting F octave. Now there's some intermediary notes. We have B flat C, octave C, B flat C. It's in that hand position we were at. So just showing you in context without the rhythm, just the placement of the notes. Coming from measure 7, notice I'm ending with that 5th finger. Thumb, you should be able to reach that F. And notice there's no connection as in legato or a slur written in, so you don't have to make it a connected fingers, but just noticing how close that interval is. It's very doable. So work through that left hand until you get those trajectories, the small motion upward of the chord pattern 1 to 4, and then from there reaching for the octave C's, octave F's, and then being able to add in the extra notes, B flat C octave, and then F as we walk down, that second finger should be able to reach the 2. Notice that I'm using my elbow to help extend my hand there. Even though I'm playing staccato, I'm still using that connective elbow. So those of you with smaller hands can use that technique to assist you. Okay, so that gets us through the first half, figuring out where the positions are for each hand. When we get to measure 9, whoa, we kind of change a little bit of the strategy. So the right hand is going to have a new melody, and we're bringing in more of the 8th note pattern here than we did in that first section. But the left hand, we see a lot of attention given there because we do almost all octaves here, especially that 3rd line. We focus on just a singular octave of C. So measure 9 through 12, short, long, short, 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 long, short, short, just looking through the staccato and the half notes. So that gives you a chance to learn that left hand really once you're in place, you're in pretty good shape. So that gives us the 3rd line. On the last line of this piece, I want to point out there's a little bit of a repeated pattern. In fact, it is entirely the same. So the 4th line, measure 13 to the end, is exactly the same music as the 2nd line. So that's measure 5 through 8. So once you've already learned it the first time, you just wash, rinse, repeat, play the same thing again. So we're really just focusing on the 3rd line here for this section of where do I go with my hand position. Right hand, we'll tackle you next. So we're ending measure 8 here in this F position. So we're going to leap forward to a G, not the G next door, but G and over an octave higher. And this puts us, measure 9, in the C major position, in the treble range, of course. Short, short. So staccato and then legato. So we can use some of that rotation of the wrist and the elbow. I'm going really slowly here. And then come off lightly, the light staccato there. Noticing at measure 9 and 10, sometimes students get a little jumbled on those two measures. Right hand, notice that you're focusing primarily on intervals of a third. And once you look at that, you can even take your pencil and circle those thirds. Notice that we're going from G to E, F to D, and then right back up, E and G. So if I play those thirds as a harmonic interval together, and ending on the C. So that becomes much easier to work out. So take a moment. If you tend to get your fingers scrambled, that would be the workout I would suggest for you. Okay, the biggest details then about where a hand position should go, how should we place the hands on the geography of the piano, we've answered that. So that might be a good first practice step if you're working there. But I'm going to move on now and talk about more of the musicality, the details and things that make this piece sound more like a minuet, more exciting for our audiences and more satisfying for ourselves. So let's dive in. Some of the details that students tend to forget is noticing where the rests are. So if you're looking at the first half of the piece, the left hand has these quarter rests that creep in, and a student who isn't real careful will find themselves dragging that left hand, and it just kind of holds on and on. And in fact, it makes this dance sound a little more slower and heavy than we want it to be. We want the rest to be there to keep the timing. It helps it sound crisp along with the right hand staccato. So left hand, let's talk about you. You'll come in at beat 2 and measure 1. Release here. That's measure 2. So play and hold to release. And hold to release. Play and hold, keep holding, staccato. Okay, so those details you want to be really careful about. Now, even say just a moment here on that third line that you want to watch carefully on measure 10. Release, release, that sort of thing. So that's what makes the difference between I can play all the notes to being artistic and careful with the details and making sure we're true to what Leopold Mozart wants. And in case you're wondering, Leopold Mozart is the father of the more famous son, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. So this was his father. So it's kind of neat that we get to see his music as well. Okay, so other details I want to talk about. We have a lovely mezzo forte that I've demonstrated at the beginning of the piece, but in measure 3, leading into measure 3, I should say, we have a crescendo. So let's make sure we build that so it doesn't sound exactly the same. Build, da da dee dum bum. Keep the energy as you go forward. And we end. Measure 9 is our loudest dynamic, moving into that next section, the B section. So let's make sure that we give it a nice full sound. However, I want to be cautious that you don't bang out the left-hand octave so loudly that we don't hear the melody. And I hear lots of young students get really excited. It says forte, play as loud as you can. There's still a balance issue. So we don't want to hear a super heavy left hand where I lose. You see what I'm saying? I hear bum, bum. Great. Almost like a timpani drum down there. But I need that melody to be able to be heard louder. It's got to balance. So right hand, you're going to speak out. Left hand, we're going to do bounce, hold, bounce, hold. But I'm not going to push down super heavy from the shoulder and from the elbow. Just a nice full sound, but not overdoing it. This is the classical era, not the full romantic or even the modern periods where sometimes they call for the more aggressive sound. So let's try that together at measure 9. 1, 2, 3. Now softer, both hands. Back to mezzo forte. There we go. So just some of those changes in dynamics, those contrasts, not only going from mezzo forte to forte, adding the crescendo, balancing the left-hand octaves in measure 9, that line, and making sure it doesn't overextend into the melody line. That can make a huge difference in your performance. So I hope that you have a wonderful time working on this. We have some nice motions with legato, but we see lots of staccato happening as one of the main featured articulations in there. So I'll caution you as we finish up today, as you end measure 8, in the final measure of this piece, the end of each section, the left hand always has that staccato. So we want to be careful that you have that crisp left hand down there. And then finally, one last thing that I'll say about articulation is when you have legato slur, but the second note of the slur ends with a staccato dot also. How do you do that? Well, you want to make sure, as in measure 1, that you do the rotation needed, the wrist and the elbow, to create that legato touch. But as soon as you reach the second note, you're going to let it fly up into the air gently. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Here it comes again. Staccato, 3. There you go. So 1, 2, I turn the elbow, the wrist into the body, and then as soon as I make contact, my little pretend balloon lifts my wrist off, and a gentle bounce, bounce here. Exactly. So that will give you a little bit more refinement and grabbing onto the articulation, legato and staccato, the way that you see it in the score there. All right, well, happy practicing. I hope all goes well in your studies. Thanks for joining me today. If this video was helpful, feel free to leave me a comment, or you can give me a like and share with your friends. Have a wonderful, wonderful practice and keep going with your piano studies. I'm proud of you.